LeBron James, it's you again.
Want a Sprite cranberry?
NPCs are a big part of Skylanders. NPCs are non-playable characters, and they help guide our way through the Skylanders games. Really, any game should have this, as someone needs to explain to us the basic functions of the game. But Skylanders had a lot of NPCs in its 6-game run. Now, the first ever NPC we actually hear talk in Skylanders is Flynn, but the first one we actually talk to is Hugo in Shattered Islands. Usually in each Skylanders game, there is that one NPC that helps us learn the controls and just helps us give us a basic understanding of what's happening in the game. And in SSA, that NPC is Hugo. But we also meet really other recognizable NPCs in Shattered Islands. Like I already mentioned, we see the likes of Flynn, but we also meet Blobber, Snuckles, Rizzo, and Nort, all members of the Mobby Defense Force later on. Now, Skylanders is aimed at kids, but Hugo, the main NPC for this game, does a lot of talking. Before and after every level, he always has something to say. But anyway, another main NPC isn't found until the second chapter of the game, and that's Callie. NPCs don't always just talk to you, but they can also do other things. Callie isn't just always in the hub world sitting around. Oh no. She gives you heroic challenges for your Skylanders to challenge you. Another example of an NPC that does more than talking to you is Persephone. We first find her in chapter 3. It's kind of weird now thinking back at it that there's a 3-chapter span where you cannot upgrade your Skylanders. Anyway, like I mentioned, Persephone can upgrade Skylanders with your gold. This makes her probably one of the most important NPCs in the Skylanders series. Persephone, Hugo, Flynn, and Callie are the main NPCs of SSA, but we meet a lot of other NPCs on our adventure through the Skylands. For the water levels, the main NPC is Gurglefin. For earth and fire levels, the main NPC is Diggs. The life levels have Arbo as the NPC. The tech levels have different Mabus being the main NPCs. T-Bone is the NPC for the undead levels, and finally the magic levels have the Weapon Master being the main NPC for those levels. All of these NPCs for the most part are pretty good, but besides Diggs, I don't really like him that much. But my favorite one has to go to Arbo, aka Son of Barbo, Child of Barbo, and so on and so forth. He's a talking tree with a funny voice, so I bet you can guess that I would like him a lot, and he also has that trigger-happy tongue. We even get a one-off NPC called General Robot that shoots you out of a cannon. So yeah, SSA did have a lot of different NPCs. Because you went to so many different locations, so there's just bound to be a lot of NPCs that guide you on our adventure. And also in the hub world, we have the Chad Clamtron 4000 that doesn't actually make clams, but he makes bombs. So yeah. The main NPCs in SSA though are Flynn, Hugo, Callie, and Persephone. While Persephone and Callie have functions with giving you upgrades or heroic challenges, Flynn and Hugo don't really have any functions after the game. During the game, Flynn will occasionally take you to certain levels, and even after the game he'll take you flying, but it's nothing really special. And Hugo, despite pretty much being the guide of this game, doesn't do anything after the game, which is really weird since usually most NPCs have functions after the game. On to Giants. A big reason why people think this feels like an expansion pack to SSA is because of the lack of new characters, or at least NPCs. In fact, they even got rid of Hugo for no apparent reason. I really can't spot a reason why they got rid of him, but they did. I find it hard to call Ermit a main NPC, but he is basically with us the whole game. But we did get one new major NPC, and that is Brock. Brock, it has a major function that gives us the battle arenas. What a big thing to add, so good on you, Brock. This obviously is huge for Skylanders, but he really is the only new main NPC that was added in Skylanders Giants. I guess you could argue that Oric is a main NPC in Giants, as he's almost in every level, and he is in the hub world. But despite that, he doesn't really show up that often. Like, he actually never really shows up at all if you think about it, just besides those parts. So I don't really know if you can call him a main NPC. And I can't even remember if he's in any cutscenes either. Giants definitely has a lack of NPCs, but the next game, Swap Force, doesn't. You see, Vicarious Visions had this whole approach to changing everything in Swap Force, and they definitely achieved that because basically every NPC from the previous 2 games is not in Swap Force. I mean, Flynn's here, but I mean, come on, how can he not be? The biggest and newest addition is Tessa. She's a fox girl that Flynn meets in the first level along with her giant chicken whiskers. Tessa says she needs the Skylanders' help, so Flynn and the Skylanders go to her hometown, Woodboro, where we meet the worst NPC ever. Rufus. All he does is talk and you cannot skip him. He's the worst NPC ever. Usually Mabu are the NPC like town people in Skylanders. They're always just kind of there. But in Swap Force they got replaced by fox people. Even Persephone gets replaced in this game as well. To get our upgrades we must go to Gorm now. But Gorm doesn't actually even do the upgrading. He is a big muscly dude, but he has a big flower that we go inside of that gives us upgrades. Don't question it, it just works. Oric has also been replaced with Gorm's brother Tuck, who has a shop much like Oric. Also, I have no idea what Tuck and Gorm are. I'm thinking they're hippos, but I can't really tell. Hugo's also absent in Swap Force once again, and while he doesn't have a clear replacer, I'm gonna say that he gets replaced by the Chiefess that we save in Cascade Glades. Whoa, there are a lot of new NPCs, but we're not quite finished just yet. In Montleyville we find a new main NPC who is Sharpfin. I actually really like Sharpfin if I'm being honest. This is most likely because Sharpfin wasn't there to replace anyone. He's his own NPC, and that's the best thing about him. But you're probably wondering who took over the battle arenas, right? Well, the person that replaced Brock, the green giant, was Snagglescale.
Things like fish don't paddle and a watch bobber never bobs. He was a funny one, my grandpappy. Lots of gillies say I'm a lot like him, But I don't know, he was the sort of feller who never knew when to keep quiet. That's one problem I never had. No, sir, I swear on the magic of the volcano, I'm a feller who knows when to keep his yap from flapping. Yes, sirree, that's me,
a little blue gill man. Yep, he talks the talk in Mudwater Hollow, but he never really walks the walk. A notable NPC in Swap Force that I really like for no reason is Softpaw. He only appears in one level, I'm pretty sure, in Swap Force, but he's a joy whenever he's on screen. And that really is all the NPCs in Swap Force. We got a lot in this game, but that's mainly because everyone got replaced. Again, Sharpfin by far is probably my favorite NPC from this game because he was not there to replace anyone. Like, it is very apparent that Tessa was there to replace Callie, and while Tessa is probably a better version of Callie, why not just make Callie better? And the worst offense of this is Gorm, in my opinion. You look at Persephone and you can tell that this is an NPC that's important. I don't really get that when I look at Gorm. He just doesn't do anything really. Like, at least give him the powers to give you upgrades. He's just kind of there next to the upgrade station. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, well, if you know one game that has a lot of NPCs, it's Trap Team. They introduced so many more in that game.
You see, Trap Team added some NPCs without getting rid of them. Well, I mean, they got rid of the Swap Force NPCs in this game, but I mean, is anyone really complaining? Well, besides Tessa, actually, she's here. But we got Buzz, who joins all the way in the first chapter, and we also have Mags, who joins in the end of the first chapter. Buzz is basically the head guy at the academy that is making all the decisions, and Mags... Actually, I don't know what Mags does. She says she invented like a lot of things, but I actually really don't know what she does now that I'm thinking about it. Hugo, for some reason, once again, is not in Trap Team besides in the first cutscene, but Callie and Persephone are back. And we get the glorious return of the Mabu Defense Force from the first game in Trap Team as well. The Mabu Defense Force is made out of Rizzo, Snuckles, and Nort. Some side NPCs that are in Trap Team are Hedwig, who waddles when he walks, so that's kind of funny. The Pinchy, who has a funny accent.
All of time in Skylands. But then crazy Wolfgang and his bad birdies show up and they kick us out. No good.
And Chaos is actually an NPC in this game, because in the Mirror Mystery where everything is flipped, Chaos is now good, and we can talk to him and even gives us a villain mission. So yep, Chaos is actually an NPC in Trap Team. As you can see, Trap Team added a lot of NPCs without sacrificing a lot. But even now in Trap Team, the NPC roster has gotten pretty big, with so many NPCs in the game, and there really is no need for an expansion into the next game. And Vicarious Visions understood that with Superchargers.
Where are you, LeBron James? I know you're here somewhere.
For the first time since SSA, we got the return of Hugo, and the NPCs found in Superchargers are Flynn, Callie, and Hugo, the OG3, but we also get the two Best Vicarious Visions originals with Tessa and Sharpfin, and finally the two Trap Team NPCs with Buzz and Mags. Oh yeah, Persephone's back too, off to a good start. No new main NPCs are added in this game, and honestly that's for the better probably. With 8 main NPCs, there is not a lot of wiggle room for new ones, so I'm happy with the decision to not add any new ones in this game. But they did try to even out the spread of NPCs by dividing up which NPCs are with us in a certain level. However, Buzz and Mags are usually just locked to the hub world and Superchargers. But we do get some part-time main NPCs that join us. Glumshanks is one. Chaos fires Glumshanks about halfway through the game, and then Glumshanks finds his way to the academy somehow. and then he becomes an NPC. Even Eon is technically an NPC in this game because he's in the hub world and can give you missions. I'm not sure if Pendergast counts as an NPC, but if he does, he gives us racing tracks, so he's pretty important too. There's also Grizzle the Greeble in the hub world. That gives you racing missions, and he's pretty cool too. And at the very end of the game, Chaos joins us in the academy and becomes an NPC, and we can play Skystones with him, so that's pretty cool. After the game is over, Tessa can also give you daily missions, and Buzz trains the Skylanders and gives us missions too. Hugo can do this as well. Superchargers probably has the most amount of NPCs that give us things to do post-game, so that's good. Now, Imaginators did something different from the past Skylanders games. Imaginators used past Skylanders as NPCs in the game. While the main NPCs like Flynn, Buzz, and Tessa are in this game, the main NPCs, they kind of get pushed to the side. The main NPCs are Spyro, Stealth Elf, Eruptor, Popfizz, and Jetvac. The reason why these Skylanders are the NPCs was to help out with Skylanders Academy, that was also coming out around the same time. These NPCs are fine, I guess, but they never really had the same shine to them as older NPCs did. It's just weird to have Skylanders as NPCs, you know? Especially because you can play as those Skylanders in the game. But the Skylanders are not the only NPCs and Imaginators. The brain at the end of the game has a change of heart and joins us, the good guys, and he gives us quests to do all over the MAP once the game is over. Weird thing is that none of the Skylanders NPCs really show up on the MAP after the game is finished, but whatever. Pendergast returns with Racing and Imaginators as well, but there's not a lot of focus on him. And we all know that Blobbers is here to tell you that whenever you defeat enemies, that a baddie left a chest full of gear that you might be interested in. Now, I do think it was interesting to have Skylanders as NPCs, but you really don't see them that often, besides in cutscenes. They really don't play that big of a part. Also, even though Persephone is in this game, she's pretty much useless, because we can upgrade our Skylanders whenever you want to, through the main menu. I mean, why would you go all the way to the academy to get upgraded by Persephone when you can just do it yourself? Overall, I think that Superchargers has the best NPCs. It has a good mix of NPCs, old and new. Really, I think they chose the perfect NPCs for Superchargers. And when it comes to the game with the worst NPCs, I gotta give it the Giants. I know that Brock is a great NPC, but who else was added to the game to interest you? Ermit the Hermit? Yeah, I don't think so. Either way though, we have some really interesting NPCs over the year. Also, in case you want to know, Flynn is definitely my favorite NPC. How can he not be your favorite? But other standout NPCs in my opinion are Arbo. I know he isn't really there that often, but he's always a joy when he's on screen. Sharpfin again is probably my favorite non-original NPC. He has a fun personality, and also his design is pretty underrated. I think it's really cool. He's a blue shark with a cane. I mean, come on. Also, Southpaw again, while only ever showing up in 2 levels, once in Swap Force and once in Superchargers, he has just such random appearances that you cannot help but laugh whenever you see him pop up out of his barrel that he's always hiding in. The last standout NPC I think is Hugo. He is the original OG guide to the game, and while in SSA he can get super annoying, he's just a little innocent fat Mabu who also has some funny quips in Skylanders Academy too. NPCs have played a not only a major role in Skylanders, but also just in games really as a whole, as you kind of need them to get this story across. But tell me some of your favorite NPCs in the comments below.
I've been scouting this place out for hours and I still can't see him. What?
It's the thirstiest time of the year. I have just one query.
Want a Sprite cranberry?
The answer is clear. It's the thirstiest time